UFC fighter and badass Jim Miller has an insane Lyme disease story that he recently shared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And being that that's a very popular podcast, a lot of people listen and watch it, and that he said some things that were untrue, that were not very scientifically based, and that aren't true about Lyme disease, I felt it was my responsibility to create a sort of reaction video about what he said about Lyme disease on the show and maybe make some small corrections in the things that he said. So, without further ado, let's watch the video.
Tell me about this Lyme disease thing, man, because I'm terrified of Lyme disease.
Yeah, it's a bitch.
So Rogan starts off by saying, I'm terrified of Lyme disease. And with good reason. You know, all you really hear about is stories of doctors messing up, of people feeling unsupported and unhelped in the Lyme disease community, and of people suffering with these symptoms that they don't know what they are for long periods of time and having a really hard time healing from Lyme disease. So it's no question that people should be a little bit scared of Lyme disease, especially people that are like Joe, that are extremely active and out there, you know, running and going through the woods and hunting and doing these things where he does expose himself to significant risk of getting bitten by a tick and hence contracting Lyme disease. Anyway, just wanted to say, like, yeah, you should be kind of scared because, you know, a lot of us are suffering from these symptoms and the help isn't truly there. The science hasn't fully caught up with Lyme disease yet.
Like 2015, I started feeling like shit, you know, and it was like joint pain. Was getting some like neuropathy. I'd sit on the floor with my kids and my legs would fall asleep, or, you know, like just positional shit. And it's like I fucked my neck up in 2014, like 10 days before I fought Yancy Medeiros. So I was like, okay, my neck's banged up. Like what,
bulging disc? Like what?
I don't even really know.
You didn't
like,
get an MRI?
No, I didn't get an MRI. It was 10 days before the fight. It was the most unspectacular thing. It was like a whiplash injury. So like a lot of the symptoms that I was getting from the Lyme, I attributed to being a fighter. Like, my knees hurt. Well, of course they fucking hurt. Like, you know, I mean, to the point where I'd be 45 minutes into a training session and have to get up like an old man, push on my knees and stuff like that. It's getting, you know, numbness and tingling. I was getting like brain fog, and it was pretty good. I kind of like go into a room sometimes and like go to like clean up and just kind of get lost.
So right there, you could tell, you know, I kind of feel bad for him because he mistakenly thought that all these symptoms that he was experiencing are symptoms of being a fighter, which, I mean, who can blame him? The joint pain, the brain fog, these types of things can be attributed to significant, you know, head damage and to joint damage over the years of just fighting. I feel kind of bad because it is easy to make that mistake, and in this case it wasn't actually a doctor that was telling him that he doesn't have anything wrong or that he doesn't have Lyme disease. It was actually his own self-belief that held him back from believing he had any real issues that weren't associated with being a fighter. So sometimes that can happen as well. A lot of times we see doctors making mistakes, but a lot of times people make mistakes themselves when they don't realize that there's a bigger issue at play.
Before my fight at 196, like it got so bad that I was contemplating retirement at UFC 200. I was like, I'm gonna get through 196. I'm gonna ask to fight on 200 to retire. And
you did not know you had Lyme?
Did not know I had Lyme disease. You know, like I said, I nervous system was kind of shot. Joints were swollen. I'd get some twitching in my eye. Was mostly where I'd get it. It was just for like days on end. Very occasionally, I would say the wrong word while I was speaking, and not even anything close, like just the complete wrong word would come out. So I was telling my doctor about this before my pre-fight physical, or during my pre-fight physical for 196, and he's like, you know, honestly, I think you have Lyme disease. And I was like, all right, you know. So we ran some tests, tested me for Lyme. To this day, I still don't test positive. It's about 50% of the people that have Lyme test positive for it. If it's Lyme disease, you know.
Let's just pause for a second here. He said about 50% of the time the people that have Lyme test positive. I've been saying this for years, and I mean, it just goes to show that it's basically like a flip of a coin whether or not you have Lyme disease, and that is just not acceptable. Okay, to use those tests as a basis for anything just doesn't make any sense because they're that inaccurate. Let's move on.
And he's like, we ran some other tests. There's some antibody that I had that showed an infection that they associate sometimes with Lyme. So he's like, oh, we're going to put you on doxy. And he's like, if you do have Lyme disease, within, a week, 10 days, he's like, you're going to feel different.
What is it called? Doxine?
Doxycycline. Because I could barely get out of bed or so I would get in maybe 6 sessions a week, and kind of just focused on like, all right, well, just be in shape, like I could run on the treadmill. That's the easiest thing for me to do at that point was to run on the treadmill, which is weird. It's different than what most people experience. Most people experience difficulty doing aerobic exercise and they can do anaerobic stuff. I couldn't do anaerobic stuff. Like if I lifted or did sprints, I'd be banged up for fucking days.
Yeah, that is strange how he said he was able to do aerobic exercise but not anaerobic exercise. That means he was able to run and do cardio, but he wasn't able to lift weights and do hard strength movements. I had the opposite. Like he said, most people do have the opposite. It was because my heart was being affected by Lyme disease, so I wasn't able to really do any aerobic exercises at all. I couldn't run. I couldn't do any of the things that I now do to make sure that my cardio and my heart is remaining healthy. But I was able to do like weightlifting, pull-ups, push-ups, those types of things. But then once I realized how sick I was, I pretty much stopped doing all of that because it's my opinion that, the body can only focus on so much at one time, and if it's focused on healing the muscles all the time rather than healing the body parts that need to be healed, the collagen structures, the cell structures inside your body that are being affected by the bacteria, then your body is really just trying to do too many things at once. So I wanted my body to fully focus on healing, so I stopped working out while I was trying to heal from Lyme disease. Anyway, let's move on.
I remember like when I fight, and I think it has to do something with the lights too. Like I don't see the cage, like beyond the cage. I don't see anybody in the stands. I barely hear my fucking corner, for crying out loud. That fight, during the whole fight, I could see like throughout in the stands. I was so like unfocused that like it was a weird experience. It's the only time it's ever happened to me. But I get out of the fight and get on some doxycycline the following week, and it was like within a week or so, just like my doctor said, I started feeling way better. And like early Lyme, it's like flu-like symptoms and migraines and stuff like that. And so I had really bad nausea. Like if I picked up my coffee cup and I was like breathing in and I got a big whiff of my coffee, it would make me gag. And then I got a series of migraines, like right kind of as the nausea was dying down. I got, I don't know, I think it was like 7 migraines in 10 days or something like that. I went to a neurologist and ENT, ran a bunch of tests. They tested me for Lyme, tested negative. They couldn't find anything, so they're like, "Hey, we're gonna kick the ball down the road a little bit, see if it comes back, and and figure out what we can do." So that I kind of forgot about that after kind of educating myself on Lyme after I was diagnosed. I was like, maybe that's when it was. But it took a while to get over because it was just about 3 years that it had untreated. And the bacteria is a sneaky little bitch. They call it the great imitator because it can.
I mean, we've said a lot of things about the bacteria on this channel, but calling it a sneaky little bitch has never been one of them. But I love that he said that. That's actually very true.
Give everybody completely different symptoms, and it can pass the blood-brain barrier and all this other shit. It also has a toxin in the cell wall of it. So if you kill too much of it at one time or in a short period of time, you experience what's called like the Herxheimer reaction, which is basically you're being like poisoned by the death of the Lyme bacteria.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a shitty. It's a fucking amazing thing because it's like here's this little bacteria that when it dies, it makes you change what you're doing.
Okay, I just want to kind of correct what he said there a little bit. So he said that there's a poison within the bacteria that when it dies, it poisons the system if you kill a bunch of it at a time. That's actually not very true. Herxheimer reactions happen, yes, that's true. The reason they happen is because when there's microbial die-off, no matter what kind of microbe it is, there is toxins released into the body. Okay, these are not poisons. These are not specific to Lyme disease. It's just a reality of life. There's always a certain amount of toxins flowing through the body. But it's our body's job to be able to detoxify that, pull that out into the body so that we can get rid of it via, pee, poop, or sweat. So to be able to detoxify the toxins out of our body. This is normal, functioning of every human body. But if you have a problem with detoxification, if you're not able to fully pull those toxins out of your bloodstream and get rid of them via sweat, pee, or poop, then you will have that toxic load in your body that can create more symptoms, and that's when you get the Herxheimer reactions, okay? And only about 15% of people with Lyme disease ever experience any Herxheimer reactions, and if you don't experience them, that doesn't mean that you're not killing Lyme microbes. It just means that your body's able to detoxify them correctly, okay? So he did say that there's a poison, and if you kill all the bacteria, it's just going to completely just give you all these symptoms. It's only true for about 15% of people, and it's more so to do with your body's ability to detoxify through your detoxification pathways than it is to do with actually, killing the Lyme microbes. That is why we created a detox program to help people with their detoxification pathways so that they don't experience those Herxheimer reactions, because as long as your detox pathways are online and working properly, you'll never experience any kind of reaction when you have microbial die-off, because your body can handle those toxins and get rid of them efficiently. So I really wanted to clear that up. That's the main reason I made this video, is just to make sure that people aren't getting misinformation about Lyme disease and about the reactions that can occur from microbial die-off, the Herxheimer reactions. They're not as scary and crazy as he kind of made it sound here. So just wanted you to know that, especially if you have Lyme disease. It's important to know that A, you don't have to have a Herxheimer reaction, and B, if you do, it's because your detox pathways are not efficiently clearing out those bacteria and the toxins from the die-off successfully.
Like untreated for a while is a marathon, and I'm not good at that shit. So like I was on doxycycline for 6 months. I ended up
6 months.
Yeah, ended up.
It's that's an antibiotic.
Yeah, it's an antibiotic. I was
6
I was
months.
shitting fucking.
Yeah, that is a very good response from Joe Rogan, and it should be the response from everybody who has Lyme disease or who is thinking of going on antibiotics. When they hear 6 months of antibiotics, that should shock you, jar you, make you start questioning things and looking further into why somebody would do that. Okay. Antibiotics work, yes, some of the time, especially in early stage Lyme disease. They work in chronic Lyme disease sometimes, but not all the time. And taking them for 6 months is dangerous, okay? Antibiotics means anti-living. You're killing bacteria in your body. Your body is comprised of trillions of bacteria just on a regular, everyday, healthy body. Is trillions of bacteria. So when you're taking those antibiotics, a lot of those bacteria are killed. It can destroy your gut health. It can give you leaky gut syndrome. It can give you all types of problems inside of your gut and your immune system and your nervous system. And antibiotics are just not meant to be taken on a long period of time like he's discussing here. So I would actually advise against using antibiotics for that amount of time. And I would say if you're thinking that you need to take the marathon instead of the sprint approach, as he was just explaining, you should look into herbal remedies, diet and lifestyle, and nutrition therapy to make sure that you're healing the body in a healthy way over that long period of time, rather than just completely nuking your body with antibiotics for an extended period of time. That's been shown to have a bunch of adverse reactions and different things that it messes up inside your body, and it's just not good.
After that first 6 months on doxycycline, I was walking around at 163 pounds before the Thiago Alves fight.
Whoa.
Yeah, I lost a fuck ton of muscle. And of course, it's like, oh, it's USADA. Jim's off the sauce. It's like, no, I'm pooping so much. Like, you have no idea. that I just can't keep up with it. But
you were still fighting.
I was still fighting. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, but that's not, we're not even done, Joe. So I was on it for 6 months, and I felt way better, that was whatever it was, September, than I did, in March. So I was like, hey, doc, like, do you think we can, get off of the antibiotics? And he's like, yeah, let's give it a try. And it was about 7 weeks, and then I started to feel like my symptoms were coming back. And then me being an asshole, I'm like, no, they're not. Like, it's not the Lyme again. So like, I kind of waited, and by the end of the year, it fucking kicked my ass.
Now, this is very interesting. He's talking about relapsing Lyme disease symptoms. So he was taking the antibiotics. He started feeling a lot better after 6 months of antibiotic use. Then he stopped taking antibiotics, and he's saying that the symptoms started coming back. Now, I would question whether or not these are Lyme symptoms at this point, or symptoms of bombing your body with antibiotics for so long. Because the studies have shown over and over again that Lyme disease doesn't often relapse. You can get it again by getting bitten by a tick again, but it usually doesn't just recreate itself. It doesn't just grow back, but it can happen because we do know that the spirochetes are able to, even when they're broken down into small little pieces, they are able to grow back into full-fledged spirochetes over a period of time. So perhaps that happened to him, but the studies in vitro show that it's very hard to get the bacteria back to full functioning state where they can cause the types of symptoms as an original infection would. So very interesting. He's saying he relapsed, which, hey, it's his story, and I believe him. It's just that the studies usually show that that's not very possible, and that's usually not the case.
What was that, 208, when I fought Dustin? Like, that was the hardest couple weeks before a fight that I've ever had. Like, I because I was trying to get back on the doxycycline, I was trying to supplement even way better, and you're not supposed to take it within 2 hours, like 2 hours before, 2 hours after supplements and stuff like that. And like, I don't like working out with food in my stomach, so. And I can't take the doxy on an empty stomach because it then, makes my stomach upset. So I was like trying to figure out like the best way to get back on it, and it just kept kicking my butt. Finally, like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks before the fight, I started to kind of get it dialed in. And then unfortunately, I was like, fight week, I was having a Herx reaction, and it was a really weird experience getting. I was having like muscle tremors when I was cutting weight, so like I was sitting there.
like punching?
Yeah. I couldn't stop my arm from moving.
Wow, that's gotta be freaky.
My vision was a little messed up, and I don't know if it was the lights or whatever, but like when I fought Dustin that night, like everything kind of had like a yellow hue to it. It was weird, and I don't know if that was just my eyes being weird or what. But
so this is the side effect of the virus exuding a poison?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I finally like kind of figured it out like right before that fight.
No poison.
Like 2017 was like I was still dealing with it, and it was difficult. Like the first half of the year was pretty difficult, and then like through the summer, it started to like get a lot better for me. I changed my diet. I started eating a lot better food. I mean, like when I first found out I had Lyme, we were trying to like.
I want everyone to take a second and realize what he just said. He said he changed his diet, he changed his nutrition, which allowed him to start getting better, started to heal. And the reason is our nutrition is the number one biggest lever we can pull in order to get healthy, because we eat 3 times a day at least. Some people eat more than that, some people eat a little bit less than that, but the point is we eat at least once per day every single day. What else do you do every single day that you can actually change in order to make your life healthier? Nutrition is the biggest thing we can all do in order to heal from Lyme disease, in order to heal from anything, and to live a healthier life. So I always believe in starting with nutrition, and I help my clients by creating a specific personalized meal plan and nutrition plan for them so that we can start to heal their body slowly over time and do the marathon, not the sprint, like Jim was discussing earlier. But I just wanted to take a second and say he's talking about diet because he knows that that has such a huge effect on our health moving forward.
I kind of adhere to the Lyme diet. You know, the Lyme diet is like basically a paleo. It's an inflammatory disease, so avoiding alcohol, sugar, gluten, dairy, stuff like that. But it's like I also had a bunch of little kids, and it's like, well, if I'm making my food and trying to make their food so they're not eating mac and cheese, hot dogs, and chicken fingers every day, like this is going to be really fucking hard.
Yeah, I hear that. I have 2 kids, so I know what it's like. I know exactly what he's talking about. But I usually cook for myself. I do. I create separate meals still to this day. I cook for myself and I cook for my kids. Sometimes they overlap. Usually they don't, because I'm eating so much healthier than kids like to eat. So I'd rather them eat something than eat nothing, and I'd rather myself eat healthy than eat what my children are eating. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and you've gotta put in that extra time and energy for yourself. It's gonna pay off down the road when you put it into you now to be healthy, right?
Like I've never like adhered to that diet like specifically, but totally eat a ton more like whole foods and vegetables and shit like that now. So and definitely like I eat drink way less.
So how did you get off of it? How did you kill the Lyme? Is it 100% done, or do you still have like relapses?
I haven't had a relapse since about 2017. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So 5 fucking years of freedom.
Yeah.
And so you went through it for essentially like a solid 4 years?
A few years, yeah. So it was it took a while for it to start kicking my butt, like I had that first instance in 2013 when I first got bit. But then like I couldn't really tell anything,
But if you had gotten on antibiotics right then, you probably could have killed it.
Yeah. 3 to 4 weeks is usually what doctors will, prescribe. And if you catch it early, you usually fare pretty well with it. But like, yeah, it was 2017, I didn't feel like I could start really like pushing myself and sprinting and lifting again until like maybe April of 2018.
Well, there you have it. That was Jim Miller's story, and just wanted to clear up the confusion about Herxheimer reactions there and the poison that's exuded when these things are killed. That they do have toxins within them, but it's not an actual poison. And at the end there, they're just talking about how long it lasts. For me, I got bitten when I was, I think, 7 years old, but I didn't see symptoms till I was 21 or 22 or... Yeah, I think I was 22 or 23. And then within, 9 months to a year, I was fully healed from Lyme disease. And I use primarily, holistic, natural remedies in order to heal my body, because that's what I believe in, and that's what I trust much more than just bombing my system with antibiotics over and over again. I never saw a relapse. I never had it come back again. After it was healed, and I've been fine ever since. It was scary for a little while there, but I ended up beating it. And I know that a lot of you have a very similar story. And a lot of you have a different story in the fact that you're still battling it today, and it's been a longer period of time, and maybe you've even gone into the chronic Lyme stage where you're just continually having these symptoms over and over again. And I want you to know that there are things we can do. The main one being using diet and nutrition in order to take back control of our health, because that is the number one thing we can do to start to heal the body. Because when the body has all of the correct things that it needs in order to heal, it's actually very, very efficient and good at healing. It's very, very natural for the body to be able to kill off any microbes that are harming us, or at least keep them at bay enough that we feel okay day in and day out. But if you don't have the right things in your system, if you're not eating the right foods, if you're not drinking enough water, if you're not giving your body the tools that it needs in order to fight the good fight, then it's just always going to be behind, trying to catch up. And it's going to get beat up over and over and over again. So I hope this video helps you out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smack that subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.